What is up guys, my name is Chase, and today we're talking about one of my new favorite duos. Ratchet and Clank is a PlayStation exclusive series of action platforming and third-person shooter games. In case you haven't heard on the news, I wasn't always the biggest fan of PlayStation. My very first PlayStation console to call my own was the PS4 in 2018. The Last of Us, Insomniac Spider-Man, and Horizon Zero Dawn were my introductions to so many of the games I missed by not playing on PlayStation. I became obsessed with trying out all of the PlayStation franchises that I had spent years actively avoiding, one of which was Ratchet and Clank. I played through the 2016 reboot of Ratchet and Clank that was released on the PS4. I went in expecting a simple little family-friendly platformer that I would take a quick look at and then move on. But no, Ratchet and Clank pretty much hooked me from the very beginning. Melee attacking, shooting, and collecting bolts are some of the best feelings I've ever experienced in my life. And I've experienced successfully ordering a PS5. So once I finally finished my first Ratchet and Clank game ever, I was so hyped for the next entry, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. This game came out on June 11th, 2021 to ridiculously positive reviews. So what makes Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart so good? Well, just like Parenthood, let's go in blind and find out. So before we start, I just want to touch on the fact that a lot of these next-gen consoles offer different graphical modes. You can either have what they call Performance Mode, which is 4K at 60 frames per second with no ray tracing and all that fancy stuff, or Graphical Mode, which is 4K with ray tracing and all the fancy bells and whistles except at 30 frames per second. And it's like, I know we can't expect the whole world from these video game consoles, but I honestly just can't wait for a day when we don't even have to think about these options. The consoles can just handle everything. Having to pick how I want my entire gaming experience to feel is just too much for me to handle. Anyway, let's see how this game goes. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart takes place sometime after the 2016 reboot. Ratchet and Clank are being honored at a parade for being so heckin' cool. And just like the first game, there are some little tongue-in-cheek jokes about the release of the game, particularly the long break between the two games. Anyway, just like my life, things seem to be going way too well, which means that something bad is bound to happen. Clank gifts Ratchet something called a Dimensionator so that he can search the galaxy for his lost family. But then Dr. Nefarious shows up and says, I'm evil, and ends up stealing the Dimensionator from Ratchet and Clank. Things go all haywire, and then Ratchet, Clank, and Nefarious end up in a different dimension where Nefarious is regarded as an emperor. Honestly, about halfway through, my potato brain couldn't even keep track of what was going on. I was just like, okay. But we're introduced to Rivet, who is the alternate dimension version of Ratchet, as well as Kit, who is the alternate dimension version of Clank. I don't know, it's not my favorite thing in the world when games pull the whole you're playing as two different characters at the same time shtick. Like having to see the story unfold from two completely separate characters made the story feel a bit too complicated than it had to be in my opinion. Just as a TLDR, you travel to a bunch of different planets to try to build a new Dimensionator, a bunch of platforming, enemy hordes, and boss battles along the way, and you find out Kit is the one who ruined Rivet's arm. Finally, at the end of the story, all of our characters meet up and start a family. Ratchet, Clank, Rivet, and Kit all team up for one final battle against Emperor Nefarious. This is literally a massive battle and it's the definition of epic. Emperor Nefarious ends up becoming hecking giant, and you just do some good old pew pew to finally save the day. Everything goes back to normal and the game kind of ends on a cliffhanger of the four characters going on more adventures together. I don't know if it's just me, but going into games like these, I'm not too worried about the story. I mean, yeah, the story is nice to keep me reeled in and engaged, but for the most part, I just want to jump around and go pew pew. Speaking of jumping around and going pew pew, the gameplay honestly just feels like more of the 2016 Ratchet and Clank, and that is far from a bad thing. It's just as satisfying as the gameplay in the 2016 game, and even more so because they have added even more gameplay mechanics in Rift Apart. For example, you now have a dash move, which makes this game feel so much faster than the 2016 one. You can jump around and dash, which makes you feel like the coolest kid on the block. Next time you're about to get beat up, just say, I know how to jump dash in Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. It's really satisfying traversing and battling with this new dash move. But along with that, you also have the new Rift Tether mechanic. This works by finding one of these rift portals that appear throughout some of the levels, and you can go flying through it, which puts you in a different part of the map. This is a really cool and interesting new mechanic, which I think was partially thrown in just to show the power of the PS5. Being able to instantly throw yourself into a completely different part of the map without any loading or stutter is so awesome. So Ratchet has access to this new character called Glitch. Glitch allows the player to go into these little computers and try to fix them up. It kind of reminds me of Metroid, I guess. You have a bunch of these clam-looking butt faces trying to attack you, but you just need to go after the main terminals and blast them with your little cannon. They're just little mini challenges that are completely optional, but hey, they're pretty fun. Meanwhile, when you play as Kit, you get these Clank puzzles. The Clank puzzles are actually really interesting, and after thinking about it, I have no idea how to explain these puzzles. Basically, you have these orbs that do different things, like lifting platforms, making you run fast, and giving you electric ability. Your goal is to get all of these Clanks running from the start to the ending portal. It's actually pretty similar to the Mario vs. Donkey Kong games. You're basically trying to set up a Rube Goldberg machine. I thought these puzzles were actually really fun and interesting. But now let's talk about the elephant in the room. This game is following Sony's new trend of pricing PS5 games at $70 US, $10 more than the usual $60 for video games. Coming in at about 11 hours on How Long to Beat, this game isn't the longest game ever. But yeah, with this game, I'd say you are paying the extra fee for quality over quantity. I don't know, I mean, I guess it's nice that the developers who probably spent so much time and effort trying to make this game look as pretty as it does, they'll get some extra pay, and I don't know, that's nice. In conclusion, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is probably one of the best tech demos for the PS5. Similar to the way that Astro's Playroom showed the power of the DualSense controller, I feel that Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart shows the graphical and computing power of the PS5. Although the increased price is a bit sad to see, I mean, if it means that these studios are able to make even higher quality products, maybe it's something that might be beneficial. Let me know in the comments if you guys have played Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. If you want to see more of my video game reviews, make sure you check out some of the videos below. If you like this video, feel free to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and ring that notification bell. For now, my name is Chase, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye.